Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 o'clock, so we will be starting the Government Operations Standing Committee. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the announcement and Chamber Emergency Evacuation Plan. Thank you.
Upon activation of the emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use the exits to the left or right front of the council chamber or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, proceed down 9th Street and into the assembly area located in the former Public Safety Building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Public speaker guidelines. Individuals wishing to speak during public hearings in the public comment period are generally allowed 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before the committee are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person, including comments directed at public officials or staff members that are not related to their official duties, or address or question staff members directly. All questions are to be directed to the committee chair. Failure to adhere to these guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any remaining time, and further disciplinary action is necessary, which could include barring from attendance at future meetings of the committee for a period of 6 months. Member of the public who registered in advance to speak virtually will be called at the appropriate time, either during public comment period or during the public hearing of the legislation in which they sign up to address. And Madam Chair, all members are in attendance today, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. At this moment, I would like to make a motion for electronic meeting participation. Pursuant to Rule D4B of Council's Rules of Procedure, Vice Chair Sarah Abubakar has made a request to participate in this meeting via Microsoft Teams from her home due to medical condition that prevents her physical attendance at this meeting. The committee members present must adopt a motion to approve Vice Chair Abubakar's participation in this meeting by electronic communication means if it appears to the body that her request complies with Rule 3D of Council's Rules of Procedure. At this time, pursuant to Rule 3D of Council's Rules of Procedure, is there a motion from those committee members physically assembled approving Vice Chair Abubakar's participation in this meeting by electronic communication means?
So moved.
Second.
The committee is voting on the motion to approve Ms. Abubakar's participation in this meeting by electronic participation means. Ms. Gibson? Yes. Chair Jordan?
Yes.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you so much. Let's move on to the public comment period.
Public comment is now open. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the committee regarding items not on today's agenda? Madam Chair, seeing none and no one signed up to speak virtually before the 10 a.m. deadline, the public comment period is now closed and back to the committee.
Thank you so much. And just in the interest of those assembled, I think if we could take legislation, those items that need to be voted on first, because I have a hard stop at 3, which means we would be doing the papers for consideration and the discussion item of attendance policies. No, sorry, boards and commissions. Is there anyone assembled from administration that would like to speak to the 2 papers before us? We have Ordinance 2025-070 to approve the text of collective bargaining, and 071 collective bargaining. So 2 collective bargaining agreements. One.
Madam Chair, I have to read the papers first. Read the papers and then.
Thank you so much for keeping me on track. I got ahead of myself. Thanks.
Okay. The paper for consideration is item 1, Ordinance 2025-070 to approve the text of the collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Teamsters Local 322 for the Labor and Trades Bargaining Unit in accordance with City Code. That paper is before the committee. And the next item, item 2, Ordinance 2025-071 to approve the text of the collective bargaining agreement between the city and Service Employees International Union Virginia 512 for the Professional Bargaining Unit in accordance with City Code. Both those papers are before the committee.
Thank you. And I think I see Mr. Alexander here to speak to these papers. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of council. Tyrone Alexander, Director of Human Resources. For the 2 papers that are identified, ordinances 2025-070 and 2025-071 are for collective bargaining agreements between the city. 2025-070 is between the city and Teamsters Local 322 for the Labor and Trades Bargaining Unit in accordance with City Code Section 2-1301.13. And also ordinance 2025-071 is to approve the agreement between the city of Richmond and SEIU Virginia 512 for the professional bargaining units in accordance with the same city code. As City Council is aware, a few years ago, City Council did approve us to go into collective bargaining. Last year, we did negotiate 3 contracts. These are the additional 2 contracts for the last of the 5 units that were approved in the original ordinance by council. I'm open to any questions that you may have, in particular about the two papers.
Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Alexander? Councilwoman Gibson?
This is great.
Thank you.
I think we can keep it simple. This is great. We've
Great.
worked on this for a very long time. I appreciate everyone's diligence and patience to get us to this point. I think at this moment, we open it up to public comment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper? Is there anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak in support of this paper? Madam Chair, seeing none regarding this item, the public hearing is now closed and back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Any further commentary from those assembled? Okay, thank you. Well, again, this is a pretty momentous moment for the city to add these 2 collective bargaining units, and we're grateful for everyone's time and energy to get us to this point. Might I have a motion to recommend approval and forward to full council?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward ordinance 2025-070 and 2025-071 with the recommendation to approve. Ms. Gibson? Yes. Chair Jordan?
Aye.
That motion has been approved. Thank you.
Is Vice Chair Abubakar on?
No.
Not yet. Okay, got it. All right. Thank you so much for taking these blocks so swiftly.
Next paper is item 3, ordinance 2025-072, to authorize the CAO for and on behalf of the city to execute a First Amendment of right of entry agreement between the city and Virginia Department of General Services for the purpose of permitting access to use of the parking garage located at 311 North 7th Street to make certain repairs to the city-owned property located at 730 East Broad Street. That paper is before the committee.
Thank you so much. Is there someone from administration that can give us an update on the adjustments made to this paper? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Gail Johnson, Director of General Services. This paper was originally approved back in January by council. We're coming back before you for approval to just ask for an extension from the state on that agreement because we have not completed that work for the repairs of that 730 building yet.
Okay, thank you. Let's open it up to a public hearing, please, and then we'll bring it back to the body for discussion vote.
Is there anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper? Is there anyone in the chamber that wishes to speak in support of this paper? Madam Chair, seeing none regarding this item, the public hearing is now closed and back to the committee.
Committee, do we have any questions on this paper?
None, no.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion on this paper?
So moved.
You have to state the exact motion to approve and forward up.
Okay, so I move to approve ordinance number 2025-72.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward ordinance 2025-072 with the recommendation to approve. Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Chair Jordan?
Yes,
That motion has been approved.
wonderful, thank you.
The next paper is item 4, resolution 2025-R016, to express the council's support for establishing a policy for reviewing and approving honorary street sign designations. That paper is before the committee.
Thank you. Could I have a staff summary of where we are on this, please? Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. So resolution 2025-R016 is a resolution to establish a policy for reviewing and approving honorary street sign designations. This committee has spent quite a bit of time reviewing this topic over the last several months. And for context, we completed a survey of council members about their preferences for this program, reviewed recent history and activities in other localities, and we, on your behalf, drafted a new policy to set a policy for this. So, in brief, what the policy does is establishes that the street sign nominations would continue to be received and reviewed by the council. They would be for residents of Richmond or people who've had a significant time to stay here. The eligibility would be determined based on a review of their historical or cultural significance to be included in an application. There can be letters submitted in support from community members or organizations as well to speak to their qualifications. And most significantly, the policy would cap the number of approved honorary street signs to 10 nominations for approval of no more than 10 nominations per fiscal year, beginning this July 1st, to be considered at no more than 2 council meetings per year. Further, we've had a great deal of communication with our administration partners, which I want to give particular appreciation to DPW and Department of Planning and Development Review for their input on the policy. The policy makes clear that Department of Public Works should be compensated for the manufacturing, installation, and potential maintenance of street signs, which has been estimated to be about $700 per sign. And so any unveiling ceremonies, should a council member who's the chief patron of one, should they want to hold an event of such type, they would be responsible for management of that event with support from our office and others in the city to make sure that that is handled well. And again, the paper online includes a draft of the nomination form as it could be approved, and this is a resolution for the committee's consideration now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do we have, let's open it up to public comment.
Is there anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper? Is there anyone in the chamber that wishes to speak in support of this paper? Madam Chair, seeing none regarding this item, the public hearing is now closed and back to the committee.
Thank you. I know this is something we've talked about a long time. Any questions for clarification or feedback?
I have just a couple of thoughts. Obviously, the time frame in which there were many requests that came through was before my tenure on council. I think that the process makes sense and appreciate the time spent to pull this together. A couple of thoughts would be, given that there are 2 meetings that have been identified, it might be helpful if we know, what the date is, if there's some type of deadline or something to submit the request by. I guess the only thing that I can think of is that, if one council member was trying to do many, I guess there might make sense to have a language to say that, it would be prioritized to include at least 1 per district or something like that. Just to add a bit more structure to the process. And then I guess that, in terms of funding for those, it might be helpful to understand, what budget that is coming from. But overall, I appreciate the time spent to explore a way to create a system so that this process is manageable. Thank you.
Mr. Perkins, do you have a response on the budget and then the dates, and if we need to provide some more, definition to goals of spreading out the recognition across the city. Do we need to send it back for further update, or how would we make capture that that suggestion?
I don't have a firm answer on the question of if there's a need to amend the paper itself. I might need some help from the city attorney or the clerk's office on the formatics of that. I think I would say the current policy does not specify a number per member intentionally, I think, to allow some flexibility if people want to sort of give some of theirs to their colleagues. And I think further on the calendar element, I think the idea is to have some flexibility built in so that it's not, mandated strictly in law, that the scheduling could be changed based on need, in the future. I think that's the intent of leaving those open-ended.
Okay, and I guess I would assume if we have these, the benefit of reviewing things together, nominations together, is that we can say, you know what, as we're selecting who we're going to move forward, let's create some balance across the city within this first batch, and then the second batch, maybe someone who wasn't put forward in the first iteration can be considered again in the second meeting if there's still room. I would say in bold, large font, this is a test of this. And so it may be that in a year we say we need to tighten this up a little bit more, or we may say it's working fine, but I don't have any commitment to this being set in stone. We're just trying to get to a process, and in a way, sometimes it's hard to know if it's going to work until you start implementing it. But I think we still need to get the question on the budget. I think it was about $700 per sign, and we were expecting DPW to have that within their budget for the actual sign.
Correct. So I think I'm working with our budget office to ensure that funding is included in there as an explicit and slotted in the right fund for them to make sure that $7,000 is adequately included in their proposed in the council's amendments for DPW.
Okay, thank you. Chairwoman, I'm sorry, Council Member Gibson.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this isn't something that I have, strong opinion on for the reasons that I've mentioned. Given that it is a resolution, so this wouldn't be law per se. I do think that we could put language in there that isn't mandatory type language, but just speaks to the overall interest in seeing that they are throughout the city. And I think I mentioned this earlier. I think that it's not about that rather than say each council person gets one. I think just the language would be more appropriate to be put in the perspective of like throughout the city. So, but again, this is not something that I'm. You know what I mean? So however you all would like to proceed, is understood. And just as a council person, I tend to do better with deadlines. So, if the interest is that they are, twice a year, if we put whatever the season was, or if, or how the process is too, that council members would have some awareness that this was coming up and that they should hustle, if you will.
Agreed, and I appreciate those comments. And it's coming back to me. I think that we actually have flexibility to make these enhanced specifics in our rules so that, and I believe the ordinance references are having it be in rules so that we can adjust as needed, particularly when it comes to dates. Mr. Perkins, does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, we can absolutely codify within the rules. The rules are an attachment to a resolution as well, so we can amend that as needed. This is a standalone resolution in many ways to provide a clear, set place to find it. But we work with the city attorney. We can make sure it's clear and again, the intent of it being a resolution is that it is a guidance of a way to handle this rather than a formal law.
Okay, thanks. With that added clarity, could I consider a motion from the body?
I move to approve to send Resolution 2025-R06 to the body with a recommendation of approval.
Second?
The committee is voting on the motion to forward Resolution 2025-R016 to cancel with the recommendation to approve. Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Chair Jordan?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you so much. And staff, current and former, thank you so much for your help with this. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and we will just adjust as we go along. Madam Clerk, can we please move on to board vacancies?
Good afternoon, Pamela Nichols, Council Management Analyst. The report before you today capture current and projected vacancies through August the 1st. And we're going to start with the City Personnel Board. There are 3 vacancies for a city resident, and we have a 1 reappointment application from Patrice Carpenter.
Thank
And-
you. Thank you so much, Ms. Nichols. Please proceed.
And then moving down to the Sister Cities Commission, which these applications, some of them were continued from a previous meeting. We have in total 8 applications. Nanette Bailey, which is a 3rd District resident, Matthew Clemens Jr., Dennis Cohen Jr., and you will see that he is also a member of the Richmond Behavioral Health Authority, Jack Carolinas, Ann Francis Lambert, Bonnie Preet, Miss Sparks, because I do not want to mispronounce her name, and then Eric Tomlin, 5th District resident.
Okay.
So the body is being asked to choose at least 3 of those 8.
Okay, so and just looking down the list, I'm hoping that we may just do these all in a block.
Okay.
But so we've got 1 appointment for City Personnel Board. And I believe we've gotten some feedback on 3 names to put forward for Sister Cities. Councilmember Gibson, did you have some that you'd heard back from their members? Go ahead. Are there 3 that we want to put forward at this moment?
So you want me to make the motion? Okay. So
I'm sorry, Madam
Yes.
Chair, so if I may, so you all do it in a block. For Sustainability and Resilience Commission, a reappointment application for David Evans.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So I can proceed with the motion. I move to make that this body makes the following recommendations for approval. Ms. Patrice Carpenter for the City Personnel Board, Nanette Bailey for the Sister Cities Commission, Jack Ketterlinas for the Sister Cities Commission, Eric Tomlin for the Sister Cities Commission, and David Evans for the Sustainability and Resilience Commission.
I'll second that. Thank you.
The committee is voting on the board's recommendations as stated. Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Chair Jordan?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on and back to our agenda, the presentation section. If we could start with the lead service line replacement program. And as a reminder, GovOps is implementing, when we have a presentation from a department, we ask them to equally provide an update on where they are on their open audit priority items. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks. And there's material up here. Do you want me to grab it? Would you like me to get started or wait?
Sorry, you can proceed. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, good afternoon. My name is Laura Bendernagel. I'm a Deputy Director with Department of Public Utilities, and I'd love to give you an update today on our lead-free water program, as well as some of our audit updates. So our agenda for today, I would like to refresh everyone's memory about lead and the concern, talk about the regulatory drivers and challenges that we have with this program. I'll give you an overview of the program itself, and then a look ahead at where we're going and how we can collaborate with council. I'll acknowledge some of the work that we've already done and take any questions. And then, like I mentioned, Scott Morris, our director, can help with any updates to our audit. So a refresher on lead. The first thing is that lead exposure can happen in a number of different ways. Paint, renovation, dust, soil, plumbing, which is why we're here today. They can all lead to a higher risk of lead exposure. Some of the issues with this, lead can cause serious health problems in the brain, kidneys, and red blood cells, so it's a health concern. And our highest risk individuals in the public are infants, young children, the elderly, and pregnant women. Just a PSA in case any of your constituents ask, but showering is not a pathway where lead can enter the body. Boiling water does not help reduce the amount of lead in your water. And then important things to do are flush your lines before drinking the water, use cold water, and use a water pitcher with a filter certified to remove lead. Those things all help reduce risk. The good thing is Richmond's water does not contain lead when it leaves the water treatment plant. So DPU does a great job of making sure that it's clean when it leaves the drinking water plant. And we also do something called corrosion control. I know a number of residents have asked about this, but essentially when the water leaves the treatment plant and it enters service lines, which are the lines between the main and someone's home or property, those lines can be made out of lead or galvanized steel, which can have lead solder. And so that's where lead can enter. The good thing about our corrosion control with DPU is that at the plant, we add a chemical that helps reduce the likelihood that lead can leach out into the water when it enters those service line pipes. And we do verify that it's working every couple of years with a sampling program. So this is just to inform you all of what a service line essentially looks like. So we have the water main on the left-hand side, we have the water meter, and then we have a shutoff valve, which is usually in someone's home. And so the city owns the portion of the service line between the water main and the meter, or up to the property line. And then the customer owns and is responsible for the service line from the property line into their home. And we are concerned with the material of the service line where it's buried in the picture that you see here. So the best place to identify a service line is right where it enters someone's home, in the basement or in the crawl space. So we've sort of identified that on the diagram. The thing is, internal plumbing could have been changed and updated, but we're really concerned with what's under the ground. So we have a couple of regulatory drivers that are driving this program. So lead, we know it's bad, and it was banned in 1986. So that was incorporated into the building code. Since then, the EPA has come up with a number of different rules and regulations. So there's the 1991 lead and copper rule, which regulated how much lead could be in drinking water and required other things like sampling and treatment to help make sure that we were meeting those levels. Then in 2021, there was a lead and copper rule revision, which is LCRR, and that required all waterworks with more than 3,000 customers to develop a public service line inventory. So something that's available online, it's a database with an inventory of all the different properties and what the service line is made of on both the customer side and the city side. So we've done that, and then we've also implemented the annual notifications to customers, as well as notifications at the time of the service request to those with lead, galvanized, or unknown service line to let them know of the risk. Where we're going in the future, so LCRI, this is a rule, lead and copper rule improvements. This is going to come into effect in 2027. So this one's a bit more challenging. We have to find and remove all the lead service lines within the waterworks control. And what we mean by control is both legally and physically by 2037, so a 12-year horizon. We're going to be also expanding lead sampling for daycares and schools under this rule, providing water pitchers with those filters that can help filter out lead for any disturbances, such as a water meter replacement or a service line replacement. And the threshold that is allowed in drinking water will be reduced from 15 parts per billion down to 10. Again, that's coming in 2027. So the biggest challenge with LCRI, again, the rule that's coming into effect in 2027, is finding and removing lead on the private property side. The city side is within our jurisdiction. It's a lot easier to pay for that. The customer side is a bit harder. So a couple of issues with this, the magnitude. So there's about 66,000 service lines on the private property side that we don't know the material of, that we need to identify the material before we can know that we have to replace it. The second challenge is authorization. So in order to do a lead service line replacement on private property, for it to become within our control, legal control, we need to get authorizations from every single property owner where we need to do the work in order to do the work. And according to LCRI, we have to reach out a minimum of 4 times to every property owner and document that to show that we did a good faith effort. But if a property owner declines, then if the property owner changes hands in the future, we then have to reach out to that property owner again 4 times, if that makes sense, if the property owner changes hands. And then finally, so that's a logistical challenge. And then finally, funding, that's the last piece of this that's challenging. So we cannot use ratepayer funding currently for work on private property improvements. And this is DPU enterprise funding for private, we don't want to use it for, or can't use it for private property improvements. So the work on the customer side is entirely being funded by grants that DPU is applying for. And there's new restrictions on how grant funds are coming from VDH, starting with what we're calling phase 5. I'll talk about some of the phases of this program, but the new requirements that's giving us some challenges on spending the money is BABA, which is Buy America or Build America, Buy America. So we have to certify that the materials being used on both the city side and the customer side are procured and built in America, which is I'll explain a challenge for the program as it currently is set up. So let me talk about the program overall. What's really awesome is I inherited this program in November of 2024, but DPU has been doing a lot of really great work in this space for a very long time. So even before that 1991 lead and copper rule that required use of corrosion control, DPU was applying corrosion inhibitor. They've also started replacing lead service lines in the 1990s, and it's not even required until 2027. So really great work there. And according to VDH, we have been applying for grant funding and receiving it for longer than any other Virginia municipality to do replacement. So really awesome. And then DPU was awarded EPA's DWSRF Aquarius Recognition Award for Creative Solutions in 2023, and that was specifically for a customer-initiated grant program to help remove lead service lines. So really awesome. This is just, there's a lot of data on here, but I think it's helpful. So you can see the different phases of the program. Right now we're in phase 4. So everything phase 3 and above is closed out, it's grayed. But you can sort of see that in the award value column, we're ramping up the program essentially. We've gone from $500,000 a year. In the future, we're going to be doing $20 million a year in work. You can see on the right-hand side, the focus is changing. So in the past, we've worked on customer-initiated lead service line replacements, mostly through a grant program. And then we'll talk about how we're sort of pivoting towards a more block-by-block program, which should be more efficient, and we'll be able to meet that BABA compliance. One final note here in the percent grant versus loan. So historically, these grants have been 100% grants, principal forgiveness. Starting this year with phase 5 and moving forward, it's a percent of a loan and a percent grant. And we're treating the loan portion as if it's DPU funds because we're going to have to pay it back. So that portion that's a loan is going to have the same restrictions. We can't use that necessarily on the customer side. Oh, and one more point, we are applying for phase 7 funding right now. This is a snapshot of all the different components of this complex program. So the upper left, corrosion control and water pitchers, we're doing work here to protect customers that currently have lead service lines. We're doing a lot of public outreach and education. I'm joined here by Rhonda Johnson, who's been heavily supporting me on this program. We are going to talk more about the lead service line inventory, which again is public, it's EPA mandated. We are doing sampling and monitoring, and we'll be ramping that up for daycares and schools. We continue to look for funding, as we talked about in the previous slide, and we already are doing lead service line replacements and ramping up that effort. But this is a snapshot of everything that gets incorporated. So here's the service line inventory that if you use that QR code on the slide, it would bring you to the service line inventory. And you can see the whole city here. Mostly the lead is located in more historic neighborhoods. Right now we have identified approximately 2,000 service lines definitively, but you can see there's a number of unknowns where at least one side, the city side or the customer side, at least one side we don't know the material of. And then we have about 13,691 confirmed non-lead on both sides of the water meter. So we have a decent way to go in terms of knowing where the service lines or what they're made out of and then getting the lead out. So how are we filling in the unknowns? Well, we have initiated a customer survey. So if you go to that link and a customer zooms to their house or types in their address, you'll see in the middle there's like a click here to start the survey. So someone can go in their basement or crawl space and actually, test the pipe to see what the material is and upload the results on this database. Some folks aren't able to or don't want to go into their basement or crawl space. So we actually have a service line inventory plumber program, which is one of the handouts I gave you. So we have participating plumbers. If a customer is living in a residential property and there's 4 or fewer units, they can contact one of these plumbers and the plumber will perform the work for free. DPU will reimburse the plumber. So this is a reimbursement program that we've set up. We're also working on a predictive model, which uses AI learning to feed, data that we currently know what the material is, and we're feeding that into this predictive model to try and understand where we think the lead is. We're using our own field crews as they're doing their work to help populate the database. And then we're also going to be doing a block by block program. So instead of kind of one-off customer replacements, we're going to target blocks and go sort of house by house to do test pits. It's a small, 12 inch to 2 foot diameter hole that we dig to determine the material. And so we'll go house by house to just knock out entire blocks. And that'll feed into the block by block lead replacement program that I'll talk about. The lead service line replacements. So bad news first, the customer initiated grant program, which is what we've done in the past phases, that's going to be phased out for just this phase 5 because we cannot get it into a shape that will be accepted by VDH and EPA to meet BABA compliance, that Build America, Buy America. But we're going to be pivoting to the pilot block by block approach. So after we do those test bits to figure out the service line materials on a block, we'll do that outreach, right, to get those authorizations. And then whoever says that they're able to, authorize us to do the work on blocks where we get really high percentage returns, most of the residents have agreed to that work, we'll then move forward with the construction work. So we're in the process of picking out the neighborhood. We're basing it based off of, likelihood of lead, income considerations, and roadway condition. So look ahead in collaboration. What can you expect from DPU in the rest of 2025? So we're working on 2 VDH funding applications. They're actually getting submitted in early May. We're finalizing the spending plan for phase 5, which will allow us to come to some agreements and basically acquire that money for phase 5. We're rolling out the block by block program. We're releasing 2 IFBs that feed into that block by block program. So that's how we're going to do the work. We're doing a lead sampling event in June with 50 to 100 properties, again, to make sure our corrosion control is working, updating the predictive model, and doing those annual notifications. On a related note, we're doing the water meter replacement program. And so as part of that, through that outreach, we're encouraging customers to submit their service line inventory surveys so that they can get a water picture ahead of that water meter replacement. And then ways for you all to help us. Again, we always appreciate council's support of these efforts. So if you can help inform your constituents about the plumber program specifically, or encourage them to complete the survey themselves, that's a great way to get more information into that survey. And we're happy to present at any of your meetings or civic association meetings. Please reinforce that DPU cannot pay for private side replacements using our ratepayer dollars. So that phase 5 that we're working in right now, we're not going to be able to continue that lead service line replacement customer initiated grant program that folks are used to or have seen in the past. We're trying to bring it back in the future, but for now it's just on pause while we work on the block by block program. And then finally, residents may not know this, but they can move forward with replacements themselves, especially on the customer side. So please reinforce if they do their own replacement, they can call DPU and we'll do the city side replacement right after. So again, acknowledging the work that my predecessors have done. They've done a really great job, and I'm excited to add this block by block program, which would be one of the first in Virginia. So we're continuing to work on, creative solutions in a really complex and dynamic regulatory environment. So thank you for your support in helping DPU achieve our missions. The audit status, I don't believe there's very many updates, but if you would like, we can.
Well, let's pause just
Okay.
for this moment
Sure.
and take any questions on the lead program.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the detail and breadth of this presentation. I mean, certainly when you look at the map, that's a whole lot of my district, bright red. And I know my neighbors that have worked with the different opportunities here have been really impressed with the responsiveness and the clarity of the instructions. We have gotten questions about like, what's the status of my application? So,
So that's that customer initiated grant program. So if they haven't been accepted, it depends on, I guess, when they say the status.
Mhm.
They've already been accepted into the program. It's probably in someone's court to like execute the work. But if they haven't been accepted yet into the program, that's that customer initiated grant program that right now it does not meet the BABA compliance to receive additional funding. So we're putting that on pause and shifting over to the block by block approach while we work to get that program in a format that essentially would allow us to be in compliance with BABA and reopen it potentially in phase 6.
Okay, I have a couple more questions, but I want to see if my colleagues have questions at this time.
Thank you. This is really helpful. I remember seeing information about this in my water bill. And to be honest, I opened up the link to begin the survey, and then it said that I needed a magnet. And so buying magnets was on my to-do list for several weeks. I think this was in the middle of the campaign. I didn't have time to get a magnet.
Yeah.
And so the magnets still sit on my counter waiting for me to move forward as I fully intend to do. But I do wonder, just to note that if there are materials that folks need in order to do that, it would be helpful if that could be highlighted. And I think, that would be something to let people know that to help facilitate completing the survey.
Yeah, I mean, I just recently posted the instructions on the website in a more obvious location. I also gave you guys copies. I'm not sure if that was one of you should see like a service line inventory instructions page. But if you wanted additional copies, we're more than happy to provide that electronically. It's also available on our website for you to hand out to constituents. I know Rhonda's also been working to get more magnets for our public outreach events so that, not everyone has magnets at home.
Yes, thank you. And then, looking at the map on page 15, obviously it reflects very much the placement of older homes. It also reflects that the areas that are gray, where it's unknown, are also neighborhoods that have less folks that are very wealthy. So, I wonder if there is, what are the objectives or the approach to ensure that everyone is getting informed about the program, to ensure that we're not, folks aren't falling through the cracks.
Yeah, so I would point folks to that service line inventory plumber program. Any property owner, if it's residential and the building has 4 units or less, is eligible for this program. So if they call anybody on that list, the participating plumber list, they can have the plumber come out for free and do the service line inventory. So the way that we're reaching out to folks is mostly through civic association meetings and through the website. I don't know, Rhonda, if you want to comment on anything else. Oh, door knocking as well, to make sure people know about these programs. But yeah, I mean, it should be no cost if they're residential and under 4 units.
And then with the plumbers that are on the list, how were those companies selected for participating in this program?
So it was open. We contacted plumbers in the city, local plumbers, and anyone who came to our training, which, really is about how to identify the service lines, how to fill out the paperwork so that they can be reimbursed, would be added to this participation list. So it's open. So if you know any other plumbers who might be interested, you can send them our way as well, to get that training.
Thank
But
you.
we don't make any, we're not making any judgments on whether they're good at doing the work. It's just they've participated in the training.
Understood. Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, thanks. I just had one last follow-up question on the lead. So, for those who could benefit from the grant program, that's fantastic. For those who cannot, is there the ability for DPU to consider on the bill financing to an extent, and then DPU would contract with the plumbers to replace those lines?
Can you repeat the first part? I didn't quite get that.
Okay, so trying to figure out how to extend the success of this program. Grant dollars have run out. Not everyone can afford in one lump sum to replace a lead line. Range of costs there. I feel like there has been precedent in other localities of on the bill financing for improvements within customers' own systems. And I'm wondering if there's any ability to even look into that for our DPU system. So whereas you guys, let's say it was the same list of folks, plumbers, you guys would pay for the work and then charge the customer a certain amount each month so that the customer is having that upfront cost spread out and able to have the repair done.
I think if ultimately the customer were paying, then that could be feasible. The issue is if we use DPU ratepayer funds, that's where we're running into some trouble. So I will take that back to the team and investigate it further. But I think there's an opportunity if the customer is paying.
That would be amazing. And if feasible, I'd love an update at the next GovOps meeting.
Okay.
Even if it's just we need to look into it further.
Okay.
Thank you. So moving on to audits, or sorry, Ms. Gibson. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Morris. I'm the director of DPU. I'm going to try to take the vein that was asked the last time. So we reprioritized this just to go over the high priority ones up front, but also all of them are listed. So we're going to go over the ones that we still as a high priority, but I'm not going to cover the medium and low, but they're listed for just public awareness. As I mentioned last time, we were able to close two, and most recent audit report reflects that. So these first two items are closed, so I'm not going to go over those. This item, we did have a follow-up conversation with OCA, and it's reflecting in that the additional demonstration of the bad debt accounts that were returned to the city of Richmond. So basically, proof that the process is working effectively has been requested. So we are working with OCA to get that information to them. This was just a request recently from last week, I believe Monday. So we'll be working with them to close out that audit. I think we can probably within the next week or two. So the next update you'll get, this should be a closed item.
Okay. When you say it's closed, that because you have, I'm just trying to catch up here, reinstated the collections process.
Correct.
Do you just know off the top of your head where we are on amount of collections received and how many more are outstanding?
Not off the top of my head, no, but I can get you that information and provide it to you if you like.
Okay. Maybe we can have that in our next GovOps
Sure.
meeting. Thanks.
And so a majority of the high priority items and medium and low were associated with the phase one warehouse audit. So you can see that here. We have submitted items of recommendation 1 and 3 and 5, and they'll be in the subsequent slides, and they're all high priority to OCA. And ultimately, they're reviewing that information. I was hoping to get an update before this committee on those actionable items to say if what additional items were needed. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten that update. So we also are hoping within the next week or two to close out these items as well. So as a refresher, they wanted to update and implement a process to ensure the inventory is accurate and complete. We've established the policy and procedures for that. We've given them those informations. Ultimately, I just need to hopefully get supporting information from them saying that they agree with that approach and they want to close it out. Recommendation 3, this was a recommendation for the warehouse program and an operations supervisor to develop and implement a process to ensure materials and supplies were delivered directly to job sites immediately, questions issued out of the inventory system. We have developed that procedure. We have submitted that to OCA. Again, they are reviewing that information, and as soon as they get it back, I'm hoping we might have some ancillary like follow-up, but within the next week or two, we should be able to close out this item as well. It's in recommendation 5. Again, it was recommended that the DPU main warehouse program and operations supervisor develop, document, implement an inventory count process. And at a minimum, this process should ensure an appropriate amount of inventory is counted, assessed when inventory items should be counted, and basically repurposed to make sure the inventory count is accurate and reflects the items that you need on hand. That procedure has been developed, has been submitted to OCA, waiting on a response back from them. As soon as they tell me yay or nay, you guys are good to go. We'll hopefully close out this item as well, and it'll be reflected in the next audit update you get. The remaining high priority items are all warehouse 2 audits, and that's phase 2. And this is for the warehouse that's at our wastewater treatment plant. And as I mentioned last time on the update, we're predicating these recommendations off the original ones for the warehouse 1. So all these items, in essence, are in pause until we get the resolution on the warehouse 1. So that's going to reflect this one as well, and also this one.
No, since we're not able to see your screen as you change it.
Sure. Yeah. Let me go back.
It just would be helpful to say which one, since
Sure.
I can't see it.
No problem. So this audit was a recommendation. We recommend that DPU Senior Director establish a process to define, document, communicate what items should be classified as stock and non-stock items, and further assess the feasibility of centralizing the process of ordering and restocking non-stock and non-stock items through the warehouse.
Okay, and I think if I understand you correctly, once you guys get the system for warehouse 1, then you'll know how to respond to all the warehouse 2 priority items, which
Correct.
are pages 32 through 37, correct?
Yep, it's a bulk of the ones,
Okay,
yes.
got it. So moving on to 38, page 38, I think.
Well, I'm going to go with the high priority ones.
Okay.
So 33.
Okay.
But you Councilmember Gibson.
Yes, I mean, I have a general question that is likely a bit of a tangent, but, so these are audit follow-up items for items that were addressed by our in-house auditor. And as it pertains to our water service, there's also been the after-action report created by HNTB, and then also report developed by the VDH. And I'm wondering if your team is integrating all of those things, kind of on your same to-do list, if you will, or has our auditor, merged. I'm just wondering how we're tracking all of these to-do items, regardless of where they're coming from as it pertains to the water treatment plant.
Yeah, most certainly. So we went through the process of hiring in our compliance manager for water. That individual is Lee Crowell. I introduced him at the last meeting. He is tracking all of these recommendations, both from internally through audit, but also from VDH, EPA reports. And he's the central person that's ensuring that we're following through if something is due by a certain date, or if there's a certain amount of high priority, low priority, medium priority, they're being addressed in that priority list and in accordance. So some of those items that will be proposed by VDH are higher significant items, so you want to address them more quickly. Those would obviously fall in the same category we would be for here, which would be high priority. We'd obviously want to go to those first.
So my request would be for, when we're talking about the audit items, if we could include those items as well here, just so that we have visibility to all of those outstanding tasks collectively.
Sure. I didn't know that was a request. I thought we were
Yes.
just covering this, but in the future, if you like, I can give you a brief update on that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And then this was, we recommend the DPU Senior Deputy Director over the wastewater treatment plant warehouse establish a procedure to ensure all materials are tracked and documented on work orders to include the following: quantity and material, and then asset being serviced is not noted on the work order. That again is going to be a follow-up item. And then the last one for the phase 2 audit is we recommend the wastewater treatment plant warehouse and materials supervisor conduct a full inventory count to establish a baseline for quantities on hand. This goes hand in hand with the need to order frequency and duration and quantities. And so that would be predicated off of the previous warehouse 1 recommendation. Sorry, another one for the wastewater treatment plant audit is we recommend the wastewater treatment warehouse and material supervisor develop and implement a formal inventory count process. And this is the same as the warehouse 1. And at a minimum, the process should ensure appropriate amount of inventory is counted, assessed in inventory, and when needed, the frequency of the counts required and reordered. Again, warehouse 2. We recommend the warehouse material supervisor develop and implement a process to establish minimum and maximum levels to reorder, periodic review the inventory to assess those materials, and optimize the level of inventory and document justification for what maximum levels are expected. Same thing as for the warehouse 1. And then again, warehouse phase 2, we recommend the DVU senior director over the wastewater treatment plant warehouse establish a formalized process to review main saver user access, ensure appropriate access levels are granted based on job duties and responsibilities, and include removing unnecessary access to the warehouse inventory database. Now, this one isn't predicated off of the warehouse 1 audit. This is an active in progress. I'm hoping to resolve this within the next several weeks. So this is not on hold. This is one we're actually working towards. And then this goes into the medium category. So if you would like me to go over those, I'll be happy to do those, but it's up to you.
I think we are okay for now, and we may decide to at our next presentation, but in this moment and with our time constraints, we appreciate you going through the high priority ones. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Committee, are we ready to move on to enterprise systems overview?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I need to get to the beginning. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Charles Todd, and I'm the director of the Department of Information Technology. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. Your staff provided me, you'll see on slide 2, these were the requests that they passed to me. Mr. Perkins was very helpful. He told me to try and gear the presentation to give you a general overview of these things. And so I've done my best to try and pick what I think might be most important in the topics. So there's some amount of summarization as we go, but I'll certainly be glad to take any questions you have as we go, or to drill deeper if I've been too thin.
Just one moment. I'm sorry. I somehow don't have that presentation.
Okay, there's the cover page, if that helps.
Do you have an extra copy? Or we'll share,
No,
if not.
so sorry, I brought 12. I'm under guessed.
Thank you. All right, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, if it's okay, we'll jump in. Thank you, ma'am. Slide number 3. We keep an applications inventory in DIT. It's on the internet. It's available to all employees. And at present, we are tracking 428 applications in use in the city. And we keep in that inventory a variety of information. I've listed some things there that we keep. What's the criticality of the application? Where is it in its life cycle? Who makes it? Who owns it? Who uses it? And we try to keep that information current throughout the year. We start our IT budget process in September. It's a long budget process. And we ask all the agencies to turn in their request for the next year in September. And then in the month of October, we meet with all 30 plus agencies. and we go over their technology needs, and that includes a review of the applications that they have. So that's an opportunity for those agencies to help us if we have incorrect information or if we have come to the wrong conclusions about the criticality of an app. So that's sort of a high level of how that applications inventory works. We'll get into the weeds in a second. There's a breakdown of the 428 and levels of criticality. So as it stands right now on slide 4, 67 of those are listed as high criticality, 195 is medium, 166 is low. Now, I don't want anyone, I always put the disclaimer, I don't want anyone to assume that low criticality means not important, because I do believe that all the applications the agencies and users have, they are performing business functions with those applications. But the questions are, if you look at my criticality considerations, what's the impact to the city business if the application were to become unavailable? Suppose the app went down. How long could we do business without that application? Is it an hour? Is it 6 hours? Is it 2 days? So that's what the criticality is supposed to show. So our highest criticality items ought to be the ones that business is probably going to be coming to a standstill pretty quick if those applications aren't up there. But the low criticality applications may be things that we have manual workarounds that the agencies could do for 24 hours until we could rebuild something. So I hope that puts a bit of criticality in perspective. Over the life of the applications, here's the life cycle of an app on slide 5. We find out about it when it's coming in the door. It's a emerging technology. It's something somebody thinks they want. It's a new version that's come out. And then we have a choice to make. Is that application going to be a core application that everyone in the city can use, that's going to be fully supported? We'll continue to buy licenses as we need it. We're going to keep it upgraded to current. We're going to fully invest. Or does it have a special purpose, which means it's only going to be used for one agency for specific reasons? And then from there, over time, an application might go into decline, which means we'll keep it running, but we're not going to invest any more money in it because it's got an end of life and the city wants to retire it or needs to retire it. And then ultimately, an application would become not permitted or retired. And yes, much to the sorrow of some of my peers, there are applications they ask for that jump straight to the not permitted category for a variety of reasons in the life cycle. I took the 67 here on slide 6. I took the 67 and tried to put those into some groups just to facilitate conversation today. So of those 67, 14 of those fall under finance and administration. And I picked out, in each of those big buckets, I picked out some ones that I thought that might be immediately familiar. So Oracle e-business suite, that's what we use for accounts payable, accounts receivable, general ledger, human resources, procurement. That's the backbone of city operations in that system. RVA Pay is a companion to that. That's used for citizen interface, for revenue administration. Munis is the legacy system for revenue administration that is in decline status and is moving into RVA Pay. And then any software that the budget department uses is also in that class. DIT, we have 9 of our own systems that we label as critical. Now, some of those are, of course, pretty broad. The email system, our backup system, our primary Active Directory, Office 365 are some examples that are on that list. Public safety, they had 16 that we classify as critical. Some favorites, they are the CAD system at 911, the camera management system that's used for the closed circuit cameras across the city, jail management, those are some examples. The planning department has 11 InterGov. That's what they use. That's their core work product. They can't work without that. That's what they use for their inspections, for their permits, for their code enforcement. Utilities, big number of systems that are mission critical for them. Their customer information system and the various components for that. Public Works has several. The traffic signal system, for example, is highly critical. CityWorks, which they use for work dispatch. the assessor, their assessment system, the 311 system, our badging. So these were 11 categories of things that I could find nicely within the 67, just to give you an idea of what's in there. If you asked me specifically, the question was, which ones are the most important to the city? I'm probably going to lose no matter which I pick, but I would say Oracle ERP and RVA Pay, those are top to the operations of the city. The utilities systems and what they need to get done, they are absolutely at the top of the list. The public safety systems, the CAD systems, the net motion that keeps the computers running in all the police cars and fire trucks, the stuff there for DIT, the email, our backups. Those are the biggest ones I would put on the list. But of course, all of these, at least right now, the 67, are what the agencies have helped us find is critical. I think the number's understated. I've asked, David Summers is here. He's my deputy for operations. As we've looked at this, I think it's time to take another look at the criticality, because I believe we've got some items that we've understated the criticality and probably need to bump up and do an assessment. But those are the ones that catch my eye that I wanted to highlight today. So the question of significant updates. This is slide number 7. I picked out of the pile these that I thought that were good examples. DPU is in the middle of a major upgrade of their customer information system. That system's over 20 years old. And they are on target for February of next year to replace that system. That's the backbone of their customer billing, their call centers. That's the heartbeat of DPU customer information. And so they are hard at work on that system. And I'm really, that's a huge lift for the city. That's one of the biggest projects we've had in the time that I've been here. And it's come a long way from when we stood before council in 2018, and they laid out a roadmap at that time that it could take as many as 6 years to plan it and fund it. And they're coming in right in on time. So we want that one to be a success. Intergov is the software used for planning and permitting. And the planning department purchased that with a competitive bid, RFP, back in 2012 or 13. And it's now been in use that many years. And they currently have an RFP on the street to replace it. They are going over bids as we speak, and I know that they are going into the contract negotiations on that. That's going to be that's a major project because of the amount of history and data in that system. Revenue administration, I mentioned that briefly before. The city used Munis for its tax collections, its revenue administration for many years. We are moving, although it's called RVA Pay, that's a nice internal name we're using. That's moving it into the Oracle e-business suite. And so it's going to become a part of that core city accounting system. Harmony is for social services. It's what they use to do case management. That's reached end of life, and they are in the design phase of picking a new product to replace it. They have had some significant difficulties. This whatever system they pick has to meet state requirements. They've had a lot of back and forth getting to a system, and so that one, again, is something we're keeping our eyes on. The budget software, the budget department purchased some software about 10 years ago, and it's the only piece of software in the years I've been here that I said no. And it was overridden. And in the end, that system has not performed well for the city. And so since Megan has come on board, she and her staff, they have written their requirements. They've gone out to look for new budget software. And so the hope is we'll have a wonderful system that will come in that will eliminate so many more automated system. So again, I consider that a significant update for the city. Windows 10, we still have about 2,000 computers out of 5,000 that are on Windows 10. And Windows 10 goes out of standard support in the fall, October and November. And so we have a plan, a third of those computers are going to be replaced by July. The next third gets replaced by October. And then the final 200 to 300 computers will be replaced when DPU changes their system in February, because they're dependent upon the old version of Windows. So we'll need to have extended support from Microsoft, which we can get for a fee to fill that gap. So, and then just the graphic there you can look at, it just basically shows that's the standard way that we handle an IT project, what the flow of a project looks like from initiation through closure, to help you understand some of the phrases above. The next picture looks a little scary at first. What this shows, again, I picked a subset of the 67, and I wanted to show visually. The green means it's on a supported version. We have full vendor support, and then red shows when it goes out of support. What I didn't try to cram onto the screen, the top 7, I've talked about our plans for those, but we have plans for all the others as well. So ArcGIS, there's a project underway to upgrade that to the next version. The fleet system, a project is underway to upgrade that to the next version, et cetera, on down the list. But this is the type of information that we should have at all times for the systems or a roadmap to keep us mindful of when things are coming and going out of support. Transformation. The top 6 things I could think of that we want to do to continue to transform city technology are listed here on this slide, on slide 9. Modernize the systems we have, improve our digital service, continue the great cybersecurity program that we have and strengthen it further, move to a data-driven culture. We want to further promote standardization and collaboration between departments, fewer silos in data and silos in systems, and strengthen governance. A couple of technologies that are hot topics right now are smart cities initiatives and artificial intelligence, and some of those stand across all of those things that we're doing. So as we meet with these agencies and talk through their plans each year, we look at these. We've been looking at these topics, and these have tied nicely to the mayoral goals for Dr. Avula as he has come in his transition team. We looked at those early on to be sure that as we're planning, we're working towards those goals. You had a budget question about our increase to our budget. And there were 2 increases in the budget figures. There was our amount for personnel, and then there was an operating increase of 5.4 million. And I believe it was the 5.4 million figure that you all wanted some clarification on. So what I've listed is there are 2 flavors of it. The first figure, the 2 million, we have to do our best during the budget cycle to anticipate how much our contracts are going to go up. And then guess for things like Microsoft Office or other tools, how many new licenses might we need and things like that. So the first $2 million were those types of base increases to continue to feed and water what we already have. The next 3.2 million were for the items listed for a variety of things that DIT identified and the agencies identified to either expand, change what was already in place. So, for example, the next to the last one, RPD. The police department leases their computers that are in the police cars and the cruisers. And that was a multi-year lease that comes to the end of its term. So it's time to cut the next lease. And I was horrified with the new figures of what the leasing company, I mean, that's a massive increase on the cost. We've been paying about $300 and X thousand a year, and we're looking right now at estimates that could double those numbers, which was astounding. So that was a pretty big, that's an example of a big piece that came in that request. The print shop has some equipment that it's end of life, and so there was a figure in there. So I'll be glad to, I know I'm probably droning on at this point. I want to be sensitive to your time. I'll be glad to talk through any of those particular things if you'd like to ask questions about.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Sure. Members, do we have any questions before we get to the open audits?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is helpful to see. I appreciate it. The question regarding the $5 million increase might have been my question. And I wonder, as a person who, lives in the city and uses city services just like everyone else, I noted when I think the payment portal changed, RVA Pay. And in my experience, I struggled a bit trying to find, prior invoices and things like that. And I wonder what the process is to, obviously you're in the building, you hear a lot from the folks that work in City Hall regarding the systems and softwares and applications that they're using in terms of their internal workflows. But I wonder about the process of capturing input from residents as they are navigating the various systems. And we have quite a few that residents interact with,
Yes.
including the payment portal, or now they're able to, at least initiate the process and pulling permits, through portals as well. There's the 311 portal. And so one, is there a way that all of those that our residents are using can be put together in some type of centralized hub so that everything is in one place? One thought. But then also, how do we get feedback back from our customers, if you will, on their experience in navigating those tools? And then I think I would like to hear more about, or I don't know, hear more about, but in the budget development process, it would be very helpful to see more detail. I mean, basically in the budget book, there's like a kind of a tiny blurb, right? And so I think for me, having gone through it for the first time, what I did note was, $5.4 million was a lot to say, basic updates or something like that, because
Understood.
it was a lot. So I just wonder, how a bit more information can be provided in the budgeting process. And I appreciate that we a commitment to a software is a long-term commitment. And then once you make that commitment, it's not so easy to disentangle yourself from it, as you've expressed with the PC leases. That's a frustrating situation to be in, where you're kind of on the hook, whether you like it or not, to pay that additional expense. So I understand the complexity of it, but would just like to hear more, I guess,
Okay.
to sum it into a question about, input from customers, and then also, the process in working with the various agencies to make these decisions.
Sure. Let me start with the first one. I rely on the city agencies are my customers. And so I rely on them to know, to be the experts on their customers, who are the citizens. So for example, for the finance department, if they are hearing feedback from their users, or if 311 is getting that feedback, then I would like to hear that. They would be the channel to bring that information to the table. And then we would then partner to look at what could be changed, where I would have to, in that case, I would rely on finance to help me decide, for them to decide what is the priority. I don't want to tell finance what's the priority. But there has to be a partnership. But what I think I'm hearing in your question, there isn't a direct means for citizen feedback to the back end, to the IT department. It all comes through those agencies as a middleman. And if there's a different way to do that, or a more, certainly would be open to hearing what that would be, because I know you and your staff get feedback, 311 gets feedback, DPU call, they all get feedback. How do we funnel that together and then come up with a productive way to address? Does that help at all?
You've answered the question.
Okay.
That was seated.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Okay. And then for the budget, I'm always happy to provide as much detail as found useful. I guess because I came from financial services industry, I'm the budget geek. So I don't budget by blob. I have individual line items, 200 plus line items of what makes up all the pieces of the budget. And that's probably too much. And as you've indicated, a statement that boils it all down to one sentence is probably too little. So if we could find the sweet spot of the detail that you're looking for, I'd be more than happy to provide that, ma'am.
Another question, oftentimes like a software might have functionality where we don't use it to its maximum capacity, and I wonder, how are you able to ensure that, so various departments might be using various things, but then there might be some shared functionality in a single application that would save the city a bit of money if we could use this one software to its fullest capacity versus having multiple softwares. How is that process negotiated? And do you, in your understanding of all of the different tools that we're using, is there an opportunity to streamline things a bit more to both enhance the experience for residents in some cases, or for financial savings, or just also, having more integration for, enhanced data collection? Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
To the time I've been here, director is 10 years, in the department for 12, I've never perceived that we had mass duplication, but it has always been a struggle to kind of hold the duplicative requests at bay. So if an agency comes in and they say, we really need to use software X and only software X will do, I have the joy of sitting and trying to say, okay, well, we already have software Y. Can we identify, do you have a specific reason why only X will do and we need to add that and have item number 429? Or can you use 428? We have those conversations. Microsoft Teams was an example of that. When we first brought Teams in, there were agencies that I know my face had Mr. Yuck sticker all over the city because people wanted Zoom, right? Why do we not have Zoom? Let's Zoom, let's Zoom. And the answer was, we've already got Teams built into our Microsoft license. It's so much easier to learn and support one system than multiple. So that's just an easy example. But sometimes things get out of the gate. I got a phone call last month. Don't listen, attorney, from Grammarly. And Grammarly said, are you aware that you have 200 people who've signed up for Grammarly accounts at the city? And no. Well, they've signed up for free accounts. Oh, well, at least they're not spending money. Well, they didn't read their terms and conditions when it says that these are for personal use, not for business use. So you're in violation of our agreement. So then that puts me in the position of now, they've been very nice about it. They haven't come with threats, but now I need to find out. All right, let's get the list of the people. You all please squeal. Please tell me who's done this. Let's get the list. Let's see who needs it, and let's figure out so we can buy the right licenses. So it's kind of a juggling act at times of things like that, but it's much more trying to limit us to what we have and not grow bigger than I perceive that we have a bunch of duplication already in the mix.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I believe we just have one more slide here in your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, slide number 12. I made an error. It's not 4 open audit recommendations, it's 5. So up on the very first audit 2022-02, I failed to list recommendation number 2, which is also a medium item. So we are working on these for the number 4, which is there. I published a new standard last week regarding the retention of IT project documentation. So we're working that through the auditor's office to clear it. The one that I missed had to do with how we prioritize projects when they come in the door. So if I have limited resources, how do I pick who wins? And so we have forms to gather information to make a decision, but the auditor wants me to document how we do the decisioning. So we're still working on that. The third one here, number 1 on audit 2308, there needs to be an additional dialogue between the administration and the auditor on that. If you look at the budget today, there's $32 million in the general fund, which comes to IT. I'm an internal service fund, so they're one of my 8 customers. The general fund's $32 million covers the 4 constitutional officers. The auditors believed that the city had an opportunity to take that out of the general fund blob, add it to the constitutional officers' budgets, and that they could somehow recoup more money from the state. But when I've talked with the folks in the finance department who handle that recovery process every year, they've disagreed with that. So it's put me a bit in the middle. So I need to connect the two hands to come sit and talk it through and find out whether we really do have an opportunity by which the city from those various can get more money. But that's what that one is about. And then the final 2 are with a closed audit, an audit that was covered in a closed session. And so unfortunately, I can't discuss those recommendations here because they were a closed audit.
Understood. Thank you. Well, hopeful for that conversation about increased reimbursements. Colleagues, do I have any questions about these audit items? Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here today, Director Todd.
Thank you for your time. Sorry
Appreciate
for
your
being so
time.
long. Thank you.
No, you're great. It's important work. All right, I think that leaves another presentation from Mr. Alexander, and we appreciate you coming here today. I know you weren't able to be at our last meeting, and so we forwarded to this one the conversation on audits so that you could present it as the director. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of council. Tyrone Alexander, Director of Human Resources. Real briefly, want to provide an update on where HR is at regarding its audit items. As of February of 2023, when I was hired, we had 35 open items within HR. On the slide, it shows their criticality. As of April, we have 6 open items. 4 are medium items, 2 are low priority items. Most of these items that are open that we're working on, we have been in constant contact with the Office of Internal Audit. And I do want to acknowledge Leanne Castro, who has been the person in the office that's been very supportive in helping us and moving these items forward. As you can see on the screen here, we have 6 items that are currently outstanding that we are working on. 4 of those items we currently do have for the auditor to look at our responses. These are items we've been going back and forth with the auditor's office for the last few months, just making sure we are really answering the questions that they have for us. The 2 items that are in progress is dealing with vehicle utilization, and we are right now have some focus groups that are helping us in pulling those items together, and we hope to be able to submit that to the auditor's office within the next week or so for their review, and hopefully we'll be able to get these items removed. That's basically all I have right now. I'll open up the floor for any questions, or if you want me to go into detail on any of the items that are on the screen.
I believe we do have some questions. Thank you.
Just for clarity, which of the items is the high priority item?
The high priority, we don't have any high priority items now. When I first got here, we had one high priority item. We currently have 4 medium items and 2 low items. The low items are 2022-12, which is talking about insurance that we're getting our records to the Virginia following the Virginia Records Retention Program. And then the other one is 2028-03, which is ensuring that our process is consistent relative to ensuring that we are doing background checks appropriately and consistently relative to temporary service contract employees. The other 4 items are medium items that we are in some degree of working on with the internal auditor for resolution.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Was there an estimate of how much potentially we were overpaying?
In this particular item, which you're referring to, which is 2021-13, I believe it was like 5 people, and it was like it was a really de minimis amount, about less than $5,000. And so right now, the auditor's office has asked for a process, and so we are going back and forth with process items. They did submit some questions that we're right now in the midst of trying to answer, and then, like I said, we submitted that back to the auditor's office, and hopefully, we've answered their questions to their satisfaction, and we can get that removed.
Okay, it looks like Mr. Riyad's nodding yes, so.
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I also want to thank you for the format. And, this is something new we're doing, but it's really helpful to have it just on one chart. So I might highlight this to our staff as a format we might request of all audit updates with some tweaking. But appreciate you, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, I believe that does it for our first 3 reports. We now have a staff presentation on reports on reports.
All right, thank you, Chair Jordan. Will Perkins, Policy Manager for the Council. Thank you again for the opportunity to share this research with you today. As context, before I get started, when I started in this role about 6-7 months ago, I asked if there was a list of reports that we are required to receive, and there was not a list. And so we have now compiled a list. And so this is to aid in your oversight across this government, and we think this will be a really helpful artifact to make sure that we know what we have asked of our agency partners, and that we will know when it's due, who's supposed to do it, and have a good cycle of work together through these committees. So thank you again for the opportunity to put this together. We will first review the methodology. My colleague David Lansdell, who's taken my seat over there, has done the bulk of the gathering of this information. So thank you, David. Together, we reviewed city code and Legistar to look for, very basically, just again, words like report and present, and gathered all that here today in this report. We then reviewed and organized it by committee based on resolutions that have gathered the boards and commissions assigned to particular committees, but then also just on our own experience of what agencies report to which committee. I will emphasize this is still preliminary and something we hope to refine in a second, if not third, edition of this work in the future. The big picture. So I'll hold here for a bit because this is an important number, I think, to emphasize. We found 78 reports that are mandated to be shared with council. The bulk of those, or over half, are from boards and commissions, and most are annual reports, reports to be shared with the council once a year. There are some that are more frequent. 2 every 6 months, 6 on a quarterly basis, and 2 monthly reports. I know one of the monthly reports is a financial synopsis report from the Department on Finance. One ordinance we'll emphasize, which was originally approved in 2005, is again, the main reason a lot of these are in code is that every board and commission is to write an annual report. So that I emphasize that in particular because I think personally it's important that if the requirement is in law, we should expect it to be followed, and if we are to ask these boards and commissions, which I've been facilitating quite a bit with the Public Utilities and Services Commission lately, but all others, if they're to do this report, we should make sure it's something that we consume and use. And so we will follow up in a moment on recommendations there. So, and then I added this box up in the corner about annual strategic action plans. This is something that we did not even actually, to be honest, catch in the first round of this work. But each agency is required to produce a strategic action plan. This is a requirement put in place in 2018, and it's to be delivered to council by September 1st. From each agency. This work is posted on the Office of Budget and Strategic Planning. I'm sorry, I don't know entirely what Ms. Brown's office is called, but Megan Brown's office compiles these, and they are available through. They're currently available and through FY25, and so those are there, but they are for fiscal year 25. It's one document. That's about 40 pages long, covering that requirement there. So to look at these by committee, we, again, 78 reports, 37 of them from boards and commissions, 25 from city agencies, 14 from what we call affiliate organizations and governments. These are things like the Airports Commission or others that you'll see in a moment, and 2 from council offices. That's specifically the audit committee and the auditor himself. You'll see again, finance gets the largest number, followed by land use and government operations and education and human services. Again, this is the same information, just sorted by particular agencies. You can see the agency responsible for the most reports is finance, followed by others. But as we can see, there's no more than 2 per agency throughout the year. I will note, well, I should say HR, if they're still here. HR has 3 because we sort HR between both finance and government operations. So I'm not going to read through this in detail. I will just say that the colors are associated with the type of organization to compile. So green for affiliate organizations. That's where we have, again, like Lewis Ginter, Maymont, Reynolds Community College, RBHA, blue for boards and commissions, orange for city departments, and gray for council offices. You all have this in front of you, but we have the full list of these, as well as the due date for each one and the ordinance that established the requirements and the code section for each requirement here. Again, the purpose, again, of gathering this together is to have this be gathered in one place with the intent that this be to guide our scheduling and oversight and use this committee's posture and approach to inform the full council's oversight of agencies and make sure that the reports are coming in and that we use the findings that we have from them to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of this overall government. So I will close with a mention of where I recommend we go next. We have gathered this information primarily just from using the internet. It is our next steps to speak with our agency partners, including the clerk, our other agencies in the government who are gathering these reports, really to verify and make sure that we've gathered all of what is required. What we have is preliminary, and it's important that we fact check it to make sure it's accurate, as well as gather some other information. So, for example, we do not know whether all these reports are actually being submitted. We want to check that. We also think it's important to gather information on how long it takes them to compile it. If this is a report that takes many, many hours to put together and then doesn't get read by anyone, perhaps we should consider changing the requirements or changing the frequency or just revoke the requirement altogether. Further, we want to make sure that when the reports are compiled, that they're actually done with fidelity to what's required to be included. So make sure it's accurate and includes what we have asked them to do. If necessary, we think there could be space for a third version of this report where we come back to you in the future, again, gathering that information to check if changes need to be made in code, to potentially consider changes to the way that we share and gather these reports. For example, boards and commissions reports are often shared directly with the clerk and shared on their website, not on Legistar. the sort of primary Legistar page, we could consider ways to make sure that reports are consumed by both council and members of the public and accessible in the best way possible. Further, last piece, I know this came up at a recent meeting about commissions and stipends and honorariums. And so that's another piece of information we want to gather because as far as I know, that information is not in hand. So thank you for your time today. I do want to also mention my new colleague, Maria, who is there on the dais. Maria Garnett has started with us this week. She will be taking up this effort as one of her first duties with the council as a way to gather this information. So I'm excited to have her on board to help shepherd this effort through. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Perkins. Really fantastic work here. And I would just add, I think this goes without saying, but when you mentioned that you're going to check with agencies on the reports that they're producing, but also check in with our administrative colleagues, Mr. Holt, I would say,
Yes,
get their feedback for what they think is relevant within these reports. And they may have ideas of how to make it more relevant that don't fall within the current way these things are being prescribed upon them. Any questions?
Thank you. This is really insightful. It's like the most boring topic and yet very interesting.
Thank you so much.
I mean, report on report. That's great. I like to have meetings about meetings, and those things all sort of go together. One of the things that government bodies sometimes do, elected officials sometimes do, right, is like there's a big problem, and then it's hard to get your hands around, and so you create a thing, so you feel like you're doing something, and then that thing creates a report that nobody looks at, and then what's the point, right? And I'm not a huge fan of that, as unless it does something, So, so it would be helpful to know, and I'm sure it's in the ordinance information, but if there's a way to categorize these by like what motivated, like what is the reason why the report exists? If it exists because all to see and help us to kind of make some decisions about the necessity or the objective for the report itself. And I wonder too, obviously right now myself and this body is very much focused on the budget. And one of the things that I think that there is some interest with council members is getting more insight on what the departmental budget requests are, or the budget needs for these agencies. And so I wonder, especially given the timing that these are often submitted at the end of the year, there might be some benefit to having the report include as standard, what that group request, what their formal request was, or things that inform the budget process. Another, for me, I'm always looking to how we can become more transparent, and so while every council member may not read every report, I don't doubt that there are members from the public that pay strong attention to some of these reports. And, I wonder how these reports might help to, support our effort to bring more transparency into processes. For instance, the non-departmental report, which I think that was a council request. I know we discussed that report, but maybe that report by definition includes the scores received by the city for their applications, just as a matter of standard practice. That was something that was FOIA'd, and that could be standard to just have included. So those are just some top level thoughts, but I appreciate this is a lot of work, and it's a lot of reporting, and we have a lot of work to do. So figuring out how we can ensure that these reports are useful and allow us to take action, I think is definitely a worthwhile effort. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Clearly, this is a ton of staff time. So, and yours just putting it together. Thank you so much. And want to circle back to the introduction of our new colleague here. Welcome. We're so excited to have you. And I know Mr. Perkins had a very thorough job interview process that I was very impressed by. So congratulations on your selection. We look forward to working with you. With that, I think we'll move on to our discussion item for the agenda with 15 minutes to spare.
I will, thank you, Chair Jordan. This is Will Perkins again. I will cue it up. How's that?
Thank you.
So the committee has asked to discuss the attendance of members of boards and commissions. And the context for this, I think you can talk about personally, but I wanted to remind members that there are, we've provided in our staff memo, there's mechanisms built into city code for boards and commissions and members of them to be removed for negligence of duty, if that is your will. And those code sections, both in the charter and in the city code, are copied into our prep memo for today's discussion, if you would like to review that together.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry, our hits are really in budget, or mine is. So I do think this is an important topic because we stand up these boards and commissions for a reason, and they cannot do their work when they don't have quorum. And to the extent we can help, move along folks that, for whatever reason, their schedule is no longer allowing them to attend, I think we need to find some sort of path. And did you remind me, do we have a recommendation for what we might consider, or do we have some existing language here that we can lean on? Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nichols.
Yeah.
Thank me.
Pamela Nichols, Council Management Analyst. So we are in constant contact with the boards and commissions as if they provide their documentations to us. One thing that the Office of the City Clerk that we've started doing is contacting those individuals that have been identified as, not attending, and then just encouraging them to maybe consider resigning from the board. Currently, the code does only give the authorization to council to remove members. However, some of the boards do have included in their bylaws. However, they, I guess, again, the code only gives authorization to council to remove. That process is a rather lengthy process because it does require the drafting of resolution and then also being introduced and then voted on by council. So if it is the will of this body to maybe discuss in the future a different process, but of course it would require also probably changes to the code. But we are whenever we are notified, we will send out a letter, a correspondence to those individuals, and then just finding out what is the number one, the reason, and then also just encouraging them to maybe step aside to allow for people who are interested in serving to serve.
Thank you. And does that process usually play out successfully and resolve the issue?
I would say 85% of the time, it does. It has. We really have gotten great results from doing that.
Okay. So I think for consideration, some of the questions here are just making sure that the boards and commissions are tracking the attendance so that we can move on folks that are getting close to that threshold.
Yeah.
And then warning them that they're close to that threshold, provide an opportunity for them to come into compliance on their attendance. And if not, I think we do. We just need to bump it up to council to act on, because there are folks who want to be on these boards and commissions equally.
Exactly.
Ms. Gibson?
Thank you. I think that this is a good discussion to be having, and I appreciate the background information on this. I think that one of the things that I'm curious about, and again, being somewhat new, and obviously, as we just learned from our last report, there are many boards and commissions and things, and I know that it's not universal in their bylaws, but some thoughts that I have is one. I don't know the process for determining meeting times. And so, if there is a process by which that, there's an annual or, when people are joining the commission, that there's some shared method for determining the time that the commission meets to allow folks to be able to participate, or if there is a set time that that participation is contingent on being able to attend at that set time. So that's one thought that I had. And I think that this is especially important to be talking about as we're talking about potentially bringing more stipends into participation. So it definitely makes sense that you'd have to be there. And the other thing I'm aware of, and again, I'm not familiar with every board and commission that's out there, but I do. Given the water crisis, there was additional scrutiny given to the Public Utility Commission that exists. And my understanding is that under the prior administration, there was some delay in having the seats filled, which delayed the body's ability to do its work. And so I wonder if, in addition to potentially removal from office, if we also consider language that would allow council to appoint members in the event that the administration did not fill positions within a certain time frame, to ensure that the commission's work is not stalled indefinitely, because in that instance, obviously there was important work that needed to happen.
Yes, definitely. And I will say that, most of our rather established boards, some of them have attendance issues, but the public utilities, it is, quite new and everything. So I'm thinking that they're trying to get their footing, but because all of the work is so important, we definitely want to make sure that we do what we can do to help these boards succeed. That is our goal.
Thank you. And I agree. I mean, I think yes, I would be interested in a larger conversation of when either council or the mayor's office doesn't fill the seats in a timely manner, what is the next course of action? Because we also, on our side, sometimes are guilty of continuing things because we don't have enough names that we have put forward or able to generate. But this is important work, and it's a fabulous opportunity for our constituents and residents to get involved in local government. And as you know, this is one of the ways that I got myself involved in our local government was through the Green City Commission. And I applied to several commissions and boards, and hadn't made it on. But so anyone out there who's listening who wants to get involved, definitely it may not happen the first time you apply to something. You may end up on another thing, but
Mhm.
that we want our residents involved in local government, and we can do our part in this committee to try and make sure we are facilitating quorum
Yes.
and meaningful membership.
And you know, and the clerk's office, we have some recommendations also that we would like to discuss with this body. You know, as far as even having more presentations, you know, also in conjunction with the annual reporting. So there are some things that we could, you know, discuss offline and then bring back to the body.
I think that would be great. And it is important work. Sometimes it's hard to make space for it, but we're rewarded when we do. So thank you for that. And Mr. Perkins, thanks for updating me. I know I wasn't able to make the pre-meetings. I'm a little rusty on this part of the topic. But with that, we have covered, I believe, the agenda. Getting nods. I would add, if we could, and I'll come to you in just a minute, Ms. Gibson, not for discussion today, because I really want to make sure that we have all of our members, but I'd like to revisit our calendar presentations, discussion items, because I know there's a lot of discussion in the current budget cycle about what's the right forum for refining the process, improving the process, looking at different aspects of it. And we need to also have that conversation with our colleagues on finance to see, does one committee take the whole topic? Do we split some of it up between the two? But really making sure we don't lose the momentum of the energy of trying to look ahead to the next budget cycle with room for improvement and changes.
Understood.
Thanks. Ms. Gibson? Okay, well, with that, I do believe we are adjourned, correct?
If I may very
Yeah.
briefly give a tiny staff report here at the end. So our calendar as it stands for next month is for DPU to present about the Gasworks capital improvement plan, DGS to speak on the capital maintenance program, and DPW to share about urban forestry. So again, you'll continue this rather meaty series of meetings here in the Government Operations Committee. So thank you for your time. I will additionally, I want to mention the Public Utilities and Services Commission. Next meeting is at June 25th. And I heard at least 2 follow-up items related to DPU from council members requesting today. One was on a financing program for private side replacements and support for those. We'll confer with DPU. And Ms. Gibson in particular, I wanted to ask, I think there was a request for follow-up on the HNTB report and for water. And I want to note that they're coming to this committee in July to share an update on their report. And if we want further update, I think I can help facilitate on their status.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.